Good morning, everyone. I welcome you in this another session of control systems, where in which we will be discussing about the frequency response analysis. So, there are two types of analysis which have been done or been proposed in the control system. One is the time domain analysis, and another is frequency domain analysis. In the time domain analysis, we understand the various behavior of the system in the time domain. That is how the inputs will be behave as in the desired outputs in the time domain. But in some cases, it is very essential to understand the behavior of the system in the frequency domain. So I have designed this uh, today's lecture in such a way that we will be discussing about the concept, the graphics mode, and the analysis purpose. So without let me discuss about the content of this topic. In this, we will be discussing about the introduction or the concept of the frequency response, why it has been introduced, and how we are going to proceed in the complete analysis, frequency domain analysis method. In the next, we will be discussing about the graphics mode. That is, we will be discussing about the responses of the system in the frequency domain of linear systems only, specifically graphically. Okay, that means in the Bode plot, using the Bode plot of the open loop systems. Okay, and also we will see how the magnitude, both magnitude plot and the phase plot are being designed and how they are being used for designing or identifying the system response and the parameters. After that, we will be doing the analysis part, that is the Nyquist criteria which have been designed for the system stability and the system analysis based on the frequency responses. After this, we will be discussing about the frequency response of the closed loop systems. So let's start with the basics, with the introduction. Now we know that there are three advantages of the frequency response analysis. Why we are doing the frequency response analysis and how it is being done. The very first question is, what are the advantages of doing a frequency response that we have already having one domain for the time domain to analysis. The very first advantage is the frequency response can be obtained directly by experimental approach. That is, by mathematical modeling only, we can identify the response, the frequency response. The second advantage is that it is very easy to analyze the effects of the system with sinusoidal voices. And the third example advantage is to analyze the stability of the system with the delay elements also. Like in the previous lectures in the time domain analysis, I've taught you about the time delays, wherein we have seen that in the step response, when we are providing the delay in this, the system becomes quite sluggish and it's quite very difficult to do this in the time domain. But in the frequency domain, it is very quite comparatively easy to analyze the stability of the system with the delay elements. Now let's take an example. For an example, we are having this RC circuit. In this RC circuit, UR is your input, is your sinusoidal input, and UC is your output. Now we have the steady state response that UC is been the input has been joined by a sine of omega t plus phi naught. So when we get the output UC in the frequency domain, that is your j omega x in the j omega, when I substitute this s is equal to j omega in the s domain, we will be getting the responses in the frequency domain. Therefore, when we substitute this into the frequency domain, that it will give me the output as uc j omega is equal to 1 upon j omega c, upon r plus 1 upon j omega c into the input. So when I resolve it, I will be getting at 1 upon j omega r c plus 1 into the input. Therefore, I can write that j omega, the transfer function will be equal to the ratio of the output upon the input. So it will be 1 upon j omega rc plus 1. Now we know that I can rewrite that the output will be equal to the product of the gain into the input. Now we have already know that the input is a sinusoidal input. So obviously the output will also be behaving as a sinusoidal output. Therefore, we will be having the output in the time domain as UCM sine of omega t plus phi c. This is in the time domain, where UCM is the maximum voltage. Okay, it is a peak voltage, which is equal to UCM sine of omega t plus phi. Therefore, the UCM could be written as the magnitude part of the output, which is equal to the magnitude part of the gain and the magnitude multiplied with the magnitude part of the input. Therefore, when we have the knowledge about the two magnitudes of the inputs and the gain, we will be able to easily calculate the peak voltage or the peak value. The angle for this output will be equal to the phase angle will be equal to phi c, which is equal to angle of difference, the sum of the angle of gain and the angle of input. Now we can call this the transfer function j omega is equal to 1 upon j omega rc plus 1. But this is called as the frequency response, the response of the system in terms of frequency. So, or the denominator part, or it is called also the frequency characteristics of an electric circuit. So if we generalize our discussion, we can say that the frequency response or the characteristic is the ratio of the complex vector of the steady state output versus the sinusoid input for a linear system. That is, your G j omega is equal to C j omega upon R j omega, where R j omega is a complex vector representation of the sinusoidal input and C j omega is the vector representation of the output. The G j omega is the frequency response, or we call it frequency characteristics. And we can name this gain, the magnitude part of the gain G j omega is A omega, that is your magnitude response. And the angle, the amplitude ratio of the steady state output versus the steady state input. The angle of the calculated G j omega will give me the phase difference between the steady state output and the sinusoid input, which is called as a phase response or a phase characteristic. That means from the frequency response, we can do the analysis differently for the magnitude as well as for the phase. In phase analysis, in the frequency response, we will be having two graphs. One is for the magnitude plot and another is the phase plot. So it's very easy to understand the behavior of the system in the frequency domain, to analyze the system in the frequency domain with the magnitude and with the phase part both separately and also with the simultaneously. So the same concept has also been implemented using the Bode plot, which we will be discussing in the coming sections. Now, let's discuss about the approaches to get the frequency characteristics. What are the approaches and how we are going to find it out? The very first experimental discrimination is given that we have the input, or we will give an input sine. So when we get the output UC in the frequency domain, that is your j omega x, in the j omega, when I substitute this s is equal to j omega in the s domain, we will be getting the responses in the frequency domain. Therefore, when we substitute this into the frequency domain, that is, it will give me the output as UC j omega is equal to 1 upon j omega c upon r plus 1 upon j omega c into the input. So when I resolve it, I will be getting at 1 upon j omega rc plus 1 into the input. Therefore, I can write that j omega, the transfer function will be equal to the ratio of the output upon the input. So it will be 1 upon j omega rc plus 1. Now we know that I can rewrite that the output will be equal to the product of the gain into the input. Now we have already know that the input is a sinusoidal input. So obviously the output will also be behaving as a sinusoidal output. Therefore, we will be having the output in the time domain as UCM sine of omega t plus phi c. This is in the time domain, where UCM is the maximum voltage. Okay, it is a peak voltage, which is equal to UCM sine of omega t plus phi. Therefore, the UCM could be written as the magnitude part of the output, which is equal to the magnitude part of the gain and the magnitude multiplied with the magnitude part of the input. Therefore, when we have the knowledge about the two magnitudes of the inputs and the gain, we will be able to easily calculate the peak voltage or the peak value. The angle for this output will be equal to the phase angle will be equal to phi c, which is equal to angle of difference, the sum of the angle of gain and the angle of input. Now we can call this the transfer function j omega is equal to 1 upon j omega rc plus 1. This is called as the frequency response, the response of the system in terms of frequency. So, or the denominator part, or it is called also the frequency characteristics of an electric circuit. So if we generalize our discussion, we can say that the frequency response or the characteristic is the ratio of the complex vector of the steady state output versus the sinusoid input for a linear system. That is, your G j omega is equal to C j omega upon R j omega, where R j omega is a complex vector representation of the sinusoidal input and C j omega is the vector representation of the output. The G j omega is the frequency response, or we call it frequency characteristics. And we can name this gain, the magnitude part of the gain G j omega is A omega, that is your magnitude response. And the angle, the amplitude ratio of the steady state output versus the steady state input. The angle of the calculated G j omega will give me the phase difference between the steady state output and the sinusoid input, which is called as a phase response or the phase characteristic. That means from the frequency response, we can do the analysis differently for the magnitude as well as for the phase. In phase analysis, in the frequency response, we will be having two graphs. One is for the magnitude plot and another is the phase plot. So it's very easy to understand the behavior of the system in the frequency domain, to analyze the system in the frequency domain with the magnitude and with the phase part both separately and also with the simultaneously. So the same concept has also been implemented using the Bode plot, which we will be discussing in the coming sections. Now, let's discuss about the approaches to get the frequency characteristics. What are the approaches and how we are going to find it out? The very first experimental discrimination is being given that we have the inputs, we will give an sinusoidal signal to the control system block. Then we will calculate or measure the amplitude and phase of the steady state output. And once get the ratio of the amplitude of the output versus the input, and also the phase difference between the output and input, then we will measure the data. So if we have the measured data enough to do the data processing, then we will terminate it. Otherwise, we will again go with the system by changing the frequency, and again we'll get the same input with the different frequency, calculating the magnitude and amplitude and the phase of the steady state output, and by comparing the ratios of the amplitude and getting the difference of the phase of the outputs and inputs, we will again measure the data. And if we still have the good data, or for the data processing, we will terminate the flow or the iterations. Otherwise, we will go with the next iteration for changing the frequency. So in this way, we are going to calculate the frequency characteristics by the experimental discriminations. The next approach is the deductive approach. Therefore, in the deductive approach, we know that we have a transfer function in the S domain given by the GS. So we substitute this GS, we will replace this S is equal to J omega. And we will assume that GS is equal to CS upon RS, that is the output upon input, having the polynomials MS and the S plus 1, S plus P1, S plus P2, and so on till S plus Pn. And this RT is your time domain input A sine omega t, which can be written in the S domain by taking the Laplace transform as A omega upon S square plus omega square. Now we know that in the given problem we are having n number of poles. So therefore, if we write the output equation or the output characteristic equation for this, I will be getting a GS into RS, which is equal to MS upon S into P, S plus P1 into S plus P2, and so on till S plus P1 into the input, that is your omega upon S square plus omega square. So in a partial fraction form, we can do the divisions of the complete output using the partial fraction method. Let's take this has been defined in this given as shown to you on the slide, that is CS is equal to K1 upon SP1 plus K2 upon SP2 and so on, with A1 and A2 as the magnitudes. Now we can calculate this Ki by substituting these various values of S is equal to Pi for the different values. Similarly, we can also calculate the magnitude A1 and A2, the coefficients A1 and A2, by substituting the S is equal to J omega. And when I substitute this S is equal to J omega, I will be getting it as G omega into A upon 2J, which is equal to, it will give me what? A into Gj omega upon 2 into e to power Gj angle minus 90 degree. Similarly, the A2 coefficient can also be calculated just by taking the conjugate of A1. So when we take the complex conjugate of A1, the angle or the power over here will get changed, and we can directly use this method. Now, when we take the Laplace inverse of this of the previous equation, we will be getting that in the time domain. So in the time domain, we will be getting at Ct is equal to summation of I is equal to 1 to n Ki e to the power Pi t plus A1 into e to the power j omega t plus e to A2 into g to the power j omega t. So when I take the common terminologies, I substitute the values, I will be getting the final equation as a summation of I is equal to 1 to n Ki e to the power Pi t plus A into magnitude of Gj omega into sine of omega t plus angle of Gj omega. Now, with the help of this, we can identify the system stability. That means for a stable system, we know that all the poles must be negative. That means all the poles must be, or for I poles we are having I number of poles, and I number of poles must be have negative real parts. So we have a steady state output signal S by applying the limit as a final value theorem, that when t tends to infinity into Ct is equal to Cs upon Cst, I will be applying the limit from t tends to infinity in the given problem, and I will be getting that A into G omega magnitude into sine of omega t plus this. That means when I substitute this t is equal to infinity, I will be getting only this term and will be remaining in this one. So the steady state output will be this one. Now compare with the sinusoidal input RT is equal to A sin omega t. We have this amplitude ratio of the steady state output versus the steady sinusoid input RT. So when we compare the ratios, this will give me the magnitude characteristic. And when we take that phase difference between the steady state output and sinusoid input, we will be getting the phase characteristics. Therefore, the Gj omega will be equal to C into J omega upon Rj omega, which is equal to G S into S is equal to J omega. Now, in this way, we will be able to calculate the Gj omega, the response for the system. Let's take an example now. Consider a unity feedback control system with an open loop transfer function has been given to you, that is Gs is equal to 0.5s 1 upon 0.5s plus 1. If the input is the sinusoidal frequency, the sinusoidal input, that is tan sine of 40 plus 60 degree plus 20 cos of 40 plus 45 degree, we have been asked to determine the steady state response Ct of the system and the steady state error of the system. Now, how to solve this? So first of all, we have to determine the steady state response of the control of the system. So if we have the open loop transfer function and we know that it is a unity feedback system, we can easily calculate the closed loop transfer function, which has been given by phi of s, which is equal to Cs upon Rs, which is equal to Gs upon 1 plus Gs into Hs. Here the Hs is not mentioned because the unity feedback system is being provided to the system, to the closed loop system. So when I substitute the values of Gs open loop transfer function, I will be getting it as equal to 1 upon 0.5s plus 2. Therefore, when I substitute S is equal to J omega for the frequency characteristics, then I will be getting 1 upon 0.5 J omega plus 2. And when I segregate the magnitude and the phase responses, I will be getting that the magnitude of the response will be is equal to 1 by 2 root 2, and the phase response is coming to be minus 45 degrees. So we have the steady state response that Ct is equal to 5 by 2 into root 2 sine of 4t plus 60 degree minus 45 degree plus of 5 root 2 cos of 4t plus 45 degree minus 45 degree. So hence we will be finally getting out the output response as the 5 by 2 root 2 sine of 4t plus 15 degree plus 5 root 2 cos 4t. Now it has been asked to determine the steady state error ET of the system. The error transfer function is been given by Es upon Rs, which is equal to difference of the input and output upon the input. If I substitute, I will be getting 1 minus E Cs upon Rs. Now Cs upon Rs is your closed loop transfer function, which is equal to pi s. Now when I substitute s is equal to j omega, I will be getting e j omega is equal to 0.5 j omega plus 1 upon 0.5 j omega plus 2 into r j omega. Now when I take the magnitude section different, segregate the magnitude section and the phase section at omega is equal to 4, I will be getting it as equal to root 5 by 4 into 10 into root 2 upon root 5 by 4 into 20. Similarly, the phase angle will be the 4t plus 78.4 degree and 4t plus 63.4 degree. So if I calculate the ET, the steady state error, it can be written as 2.5 root 5 into sine of 4t plus 78.4 degree plus 5 root 5 into cos of 4t plus 63.4 degree. Now how to do the graphical expression for the frequency response? Graphical expression is nothing but it is used for the intuition. Just with the knowledge of the graph, if we have from the graph itself, it is very easily to understand the behavior of the system to do the analysis very easily. So let's take an example. We are having the rectangular in the rectangular coordinate plots. Let's take an example on the open loop gain. The open loop transfer function has been given as 10 upon 2s plus 1, which is equal to, when you substitute s is equal to j omega, I will be getting it is equal to 10 upon under root of 1 plus 2 omega square with an angle of t g inverse of 2 omega. Now for the various values of omega, when we calculate the magnitude and phase angle, I will be getting for omega is equal to 0. When I substitute this omega is equal to 0 in this, I will be getting a magnitude of 10. And the angle will be what? It will be equal to 10 inverse of 2 omega. So therefore 10 inverse 0 will be equal to 0 degree. So when I substitute omega is equal to 1 by 2, I will be getting the magnitude as 7.07 and angle of minus 45 degree. Then we increase the magnitude to omega is equal to 1. I will be getting the magnitude as 4.47 and the angle as minus 63.435 degree. When we further increase the magnitude, when we further increase the omega equal to 2, then I will be getting the magnitude as 2.4 and minus 75.964 degree. So similarly, when we plot these continuous variations of omega on the magnitude and the phase plot, that means we will be having the two different plots. One is the magnitude plot and another is a phase plot, phase angle plot. So you can see with the increase in the frequency, the magnitude is been reducing. The magnitude is reducing with the increase in frequency. That means for omega is equal to 5, we are getting at around 0.995. Similarly, with the increase in the frequency, the magnitude, the phase angle is also decreasing. It is going more negative. So such type of behavior can be analyzed just by substituting the values of different omega in the transfer function. The another graphical expression for the frequency response is a polar plot. So the polar plot is easily useful for investigating the system stability. That means just by with the knowledge or having the graphical pictorial or the graphical representation of the control system or the transfer function, where we will be easily able to calculate whether the system will be stable or unstable. So let's discuss let's discuss about the polar plot by using one example, by taking one example as an example of 5.1.p. In this example, look at this. We are having one transfer function given by k upon s into 2st plus 1. So when I substitute s is equal to j omega, it will become k upon j omega into j omega t plus 1. And later, when we find out the magnitude of the transfer function, that will be k upon omega into under root of 1 plus omega t whole square. And the phase angle for this will be defined by this phi of omega, which is equal to minus of 90 into 10 plus tan inverse of omega t. Now, with the different values of omega, we will be calculating the different values of magnitude and phase. So when I substitute this omega is equal to 0, I am getting the infinite magnitude and the angle is minus 90 degrees. Similarly, when I increase this omega from 0 to 1 by 2t to 1 by t to infinity, I will be getting the different values of magnitude and the phase angle. Now, in this, what we will do, we will use this information to calculate to draw the polar plot. Now we know that the angle is varying from 0 when we are varying the omega from 0 to infinity, we are varying the phase angle from the minus 90 degree to minus 180 degree. Now when I plot this on the real axis and j omega axis, real axis and imaginary axis, the movement of the plot is from this omega is equal to infinity to omega is equal to 0, from 0 to infinity, from 0 to infinity. That means from 0 at omega equal to 0, we are having the magnitude of infinity, and at omega equal to infinity, we are having the magnitude of 0. So the magnitude of 0 is coming at reaching at is the origin of the graph. That means we are moving from this way, coming from the infinity. The plot is diverging, or sorry, the plot is converging at the origin, and we know that it is starting from minus 90 degree to minus 180 degree. That means it is starting from this angle, coming from the minus 90 degree. The asymptote, this is your 0 degree, this is 90 degree, and this is your minus 90 degree. This axis will be your minus 90 degree. That means the polar plot is coming along the asymptote with the minus 90 degree plot, with the minus 90 degree axis, and it is converging towards the 0 at omega equal to infinity. So in this way, we can draw the various plots for the same. Now this value, when we draw at omega equal to 1 by t, this is the point, and at this point we are getting one. When we draw the perpendicular, when we draw the straight line from this point to this point, we will be getting the gain. We will be getting the gain at k by root 2 with at omega equal to 1 by t. Similarly, at omega equal to 1 by 2t, the gain will be this one. So that means if we increase, when we are moving from omega equal to 0 to omega is equal to infinity, then we are reducing the gain. We can see that the gain has been reduced in this condition. So such type of graphical representation of the transfer functions or of the system, we can easily calculate how the system behaves, and also the stability of the system, whether the system will be stable or not. Just by looking with the knowledge of, with just with the looking at the graph, with the more expertise, we can easily see that how the system will behave, and also calculate the various values of gain, the omega, and the magnitude of the plots. So the shortage of the polar plots and the rectangular coordinate plots, you can say these are to synchronously investigate the cases of the lower and higher bands. Okay, which is the difficult. This is the shortage. This is the disadvantage of the polar plots and the rectangular coordinates, that we are not being able to investigate for the lower and higher frequency bands. Now, how to do this? The idea, the concept is that to enlarge the lower frequency band and to shrink the higher frequency band. That means we will increase the lower frequency band and we will short or shrink the higher frequency bands. Will it give us the desired output we are looking for? Yes, we will get it. And such type of method is been defined by the Bode in the as a Bode plot. Now, using the logarithmic plots, using the logarithmic graphs, these lower frequency bands are been enlarged and higher frequency bands are been shortened. And with the help of these semi-log graphs, we can easily plot the magnitude response and phase response for the lower and higher frequency bands. Now, in the Bode diagram, the magnitude response is been defined on the y-axis and the x-axis. The y-axis, y coordinates are described in the decibels, which are been decided as 20 log magnitude of g omega, and x coordinates are in the logarithmics of omega, log of omega. And the phase responses are being plotted with the radians and the logarithmic omega. So first we will discuss the Bode diagram in detail with the frequency response of the typical elements. Now before moving further, it's very important to do some, let's take an example, some kind of MCQs. The scientists Bode have contribution in what? Asymptotic plots, polar plots, root locus techniques, and constant M and N circles. It is your asymptotic plots, which are the Bode plots that are drawn to find the relative stability of the system by finding the phase and gain margin, and this was invented by the scientist Bode. The next is the scientist Ivan has a contribution in what? They have the contribution in the root locus techniques, which we have discussed in the previous lectures. So the root locus technique is used to find out the transient and the steady state response characteristics by finding the locus of the gain of the system, and this was made by the scientist Evans. The next question is, the scientists Nyquist have contribution in what? They have the contribution in designing the polar plot. The Nyquist plot is used to find the stability of the system by open loop poles and zeros, and the encirclements of the poles and zeros by satisfying the equation n is equal to t minus z. In this is named under the name of the scientist Nyquist. The another question is, for the stable closed loop system, the gain of all phase crossover frequency should always be less than 20 decibels, less than 6 decibels, greater than 6 decibels, or greater than 0 decibels. The correct explanation answer is answer number D, that for a stable closed loop system, the gain of phase crossover frequency should always be greater than 0 decibels. The next question is, which one of the following method can determine the closed loop system resonance frequency operation? That is your M and N circles. Next question is, if the gain of the open loop system is doubled and the gain of the system is what? Then it will not be affected. If we even increase the gain of the open loop system, the gain of the closed loop system or the overall system is not affected, because the gain of the system is not dependent on the overall gain of the system. The next question is, which one of the following statement is correct? The Nicholas chart is useful for the detailed study of closed loop frequency response, open loop frequency response, closed loop and open loop frequency response, and none of the mentioned. The correct answer is the closed loop frequency response, because the Nicholas chart has constant M and N loci, or the circles, that are used to find the stability of the system, and the detailed study of their can be determined with the help of closed loop frequency responses. So the correct answer is A, that is your closed loop frequency response is useful for the study. Next question is the constant M loci, the constant gain and the constant phase shift loci of the closed loop system. They are the plot of the loop gain with the variation in the frequency. They are the circles of the constant gain for the closed loop transfer function. They are the circles of the constant phase shift for the closed loop transfer function. The correct answer is that constant M loci are the circles of constant phase shift for the closed loop transfer function, which is also the definition of itself, the definition of the constant M loci. What is a constant N loci? Is it a constant gain or constant phase shift loci of the closed loop system? Is it a plot of the loop gain with the variation in the frequency? Or is it a circles of constant gains for the closed loop transfer function? I think this is the correct answer, which also defines as the definition that a constant M loci are the circles of constant gain for the closed loop transfer function, and the intersection point of the M and N is always at the point of -1, 0. If there is any point beyond this location, this will not work. Now the last question is, in the Nicholas chart, the constant gains and the constant phase shift loci of the closed loop system, these are the plots of the pole loop gain with the variation in the frequency. These are the circles of the constant gain for the closed loop transfer function, or these are the circles of the constant phase shift for the closed loop transfer functions. The correct answer is B, because the Nicholas chart are the plots of loop gain with a variation in frequency, and this is used to determine the stability of the system with the variation in the frequency. So with the help of these, we can identify the different Nicholas chart formulas. Now in today's lecture, we have discussed about what are the basics of the frequency response, what are the advantages of frequency response, what are the different methods utilized for the frequency response. We have seen that there are graphical methods as well as the analytical methods for identifying the marginal or the relative stability of the closed loop system. In the next lecture, we will be discussing about the Bode plots, how to draw the Bode plots, and what is the use of it. So I hope you all have must understand the basics of the frequency response, that the utilization of these responses. We have also seen that the basic examples for the electrical system for calculating the frequency response and the transfer functions with the frequency for the frequency characteristics.